everybody, my name is Shortline 614. Welcome back to episode, 4 of Shortline Space Program. In this episode, we are going to finish Columbia Station by launching just a bunch of random miscellaneous stuff. On this launch, we have a small 1.5 meter tug. We have 4 docking adapters. We have a refinery, and we have an ore tank, which I don't really expect that we're going to be using the refinery and ore tank much, but it is nice to have, just in case. So just the standard launch on a Chesapeake 1.0 launch vehicle. I did have a bit of trouble with fairing separation. As you can see, I readjust the staging, and then for some reason the fairings kind of clipped into everything and didn't want to go off. I got kind of scared it would break something there, but just having to adjust the inclination. I have to readjust Columbia Station into an orbit where it's perfectly equatorial. But just standard rendezvous. I get it in one pass again, which is fine. Yeah, nothing really special with this. You've seen this a bunch of times before. But I do manage to get I think 2 orbits? Yeah, in 2 orbits I do manage to get a rendezvous with Columbia Station. I think it was, as you can see, the inclination between the two is kind of iffy, but here we go. We're about 15 kilometers in, and I, start to slow down relative to the station, and then I point towards the station to start heading towards it, and then I get fairly close. So yeah, about 3 kilometers, and then I slowly start to come in closer. Just standard rendezvous stuff. I like to call this episode station keeping or station construction the episode, because 90% of this episode is just me using actually a combination of both space tugs to actually to put all of these individual modules where they're supposed to be. But I switch to the station, of course, and then I take our little tug, and then I start to fly towards the upper stage, and I overshoot somewhat, which is stupid, and 50 meters is not that much, but anyways, I switch back to it, I uncouple the stage, and that stage is actually going to come back later, of course, and we're going to use it to refuel the station, and just standard stuff, you've seen this a million times before, just docking into the payload. Now, due to how I want all of these configured on the station, and due to how it's set up like this, what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to dock it to the station tug first, because that's the only docking port senior on this thing. So I end up docking that to the back of the nuclear refueling module, which we're going to have to keep that tug back there anyways, because we're going to have to reorientate that so we can deploy the solar panels on the center truss. But initially I have a bit of trouble trying to get the thing in close, but eventually everything turns out to be all right. So as you can see, we're coming close. There's this Columbia Station in all of its beauty. It's almost complete beauty. We are going to have to do some various missions after this just to kind of refuel it and get, all the fuel topped off before we can begin operational missions. But for the most part, after this, it is done. So as you can see, I go and I dock it to the front end of the docking and the crew and docking module at that docking port senior, which that's supposed to be meant for the future Kerbal orbit space bus, I guess. So yeah, just come in quick and easy docking, and then what I do is I warp towards daytime, and then what I do is I have that little 1.5 meter tug, and I'm going to be using that to put this one ore tank on I guess the top part, that docking port that I've selected, and then the refinery is going to go on the opposite end. But this was actually a little bit hard to dock, mostly because I only have one set of RCS on that little 1.5 meter tug there. So this was a bit harder to dock than any of the other modules that I've used using a tug like this. So I do get everything aligned, all the docking ports aligned up perfectly, so it's not like crooked and stuff, but which is pretty nice. I've started actually aiming when I'm going into docking, aiming the camera at the front docking port, which I just find that really easy when you're trying to make fine adjustments, like you're seeing here. And as you can see, just a quick and easy docking. I get everything orientated, you know. It takes a little bit, and then we dock, and everything is fine. So, for some reason, I guess, I go ahead and I pause for a little bit, and then I undock this, and the refinery is going to be going on to the other end of the station. So, it's going to be going on to the other end of the station, so I obviously just, you know, do standard station keeping stuff. Flying past that, I guess, the back end of the station. Well, the station rotates around the center truss, so I don't know if that's really the front or the back, or I guess technically speaking, it's the back. But obviously, aim the camera there. I go in for standard docking. Everything is all fine and good, and of course, we can, in the future, if we ever need to, we can add more ore tanks and more refineries, but I don't think we're gonna, as I said, I don't think we're gonna be using this all that much. It would be nice, though. So, had a bit of trouble with this, because the one set of RCS, and I start drifting to the side a little bit, and then I start drifting back, and it's not... Oh, make sure you balance your RCS on crafts. This is the one mistake I made with this, because I didn't think I would really... It didn't really come to mind when I built all this. So, now it is time for this, to put on the adapters. So, okay, so the first thing I do is I uncouple this, because we already have one adapter on the station. We're going to dock this to the opposite end of that. And of course, we can move these adapters around as we need them. These are just all in mostly temporary locations. But I take our 2.5 meter tug, and I dock it to the rest of the adapters and the 1.5 meter tug. So, you know, I fly up, do standard. It's drifting away from the station at like 2 or 3 meters a second, which is fine. And then you can see the second stage in the background, which is like, it's like 5 kilometers away or something like that. And then what I try and do is I uncouple that, our little 1.5 meter tug, and then I go ahead and dock it to the station. We're going to be using that for a little bit, and I go ahead and adjust the thrust on that RCS, because it's a bit too how do you say it? The sensitivity, I guess, is a bit too high on this thing. Just standard docking it to that's going to be its base location to where it's going to dock. And then the main tug is going to dock next to it, and as you can see, you have that one adapter, and the other adapter that we're going to be docking is on the opposite end of that. So, I bring the tug down, start bringing it down towards the station, and then, as I said, just do standard stuff, orientate the tug that way. Oh, the second stage is 17 kilometers away, so it's in a similar enough orbit where we will have... we didn't have a lot of fuel left on that, but there is enough to get it to the station. But I start to become concerned, because not only is the RCS not balanced, we have that radiator in the way, and I didn't want to accidentally knock it off. So I go ahead and just retract it, and that's going to stay retract until we reorientate that module. But I also retract the antenna so it doesn't, you know, die. And then we get the adapter docked, and everything is okay. And then I go ahead and I take that little tug and I'll dock it to the top, and then on the opposite end of the station, we're going to be docking these senior first, so it has space for the 1.5 meter stuff. And then I bring this away, and then of course I'm gonna have to. I go ahead and just take the 2.5 meter tug, and dock it to the back of the nuclear refueling module. So the nuclear tug refueling module, because we're going to need it to. We're going to need that tug there to adjust the orientation so we can deploy the solar panels on the middle truss, which is one thing that when I recorded the last episode I just straight up didn't realize that. But just standard stuff. I readjust the RCS again because this thing was incredibly hard to. The sensitivity on this thing was, I guess you could call it, was really high, and I also had a bit of trouble docking this because. Not only because the RCS obviously is off center, it's not balanced, and the actual tug has a lot of SAS control and a lot of RCS control, which makes it kind of hard to orientate stuff in the proper direction. But I did manage to do it, and then I obviously go ahead and undock it and go onto the other side and dock that adapter. And as I said, we can move these around at will. Whenever we want to, depending on what we need docked to the station. So, you go in and just orientate like that. You move in, and then you start to use those translation controls, and then you go in and dock that right. You go in and dock that right there, which is all fine and good. And then I go ahead, disconnect the tug, and then I go put it in its permanent location, I guess you could say, or where it's going to be docked to most of the time, which is over near those adapters. I guess on the I guess this is the left side of the station, because if the crew and docking segment, if the forward port on that is the front, and then the back port on the nuclear refueling module is the back, then this would be left. So, and of course I also had the issue of it generally not wanting to, it being very finicky, but I do have that docked. And then I also retracted the radiators on the nuclear refueling module, because we're going to disconnect this thing, and then we're going to reorientate it so we can deploy those. I said this 2 times already, so we can deploy the solar panels on the center truss. Without having them clip into the radiators, which was the issue that I was having. Now, the good thing is this doesn't actually. This is mostly empty, and I'd say it's about halfway full, so it's fairly easy to maneuver, and the RCS is balanced, which is good. But as I said, we're probably going to have to have a bunch of launches to actually come up and refuel this entire station, which is going to be nice. And then after that. We'll send up the nuclear tug, and then we'll send out our relay satellites, which is going to be the first mission for that nuclear tug, and then, stuff around like the MUN and MIMIS. I'm thinking that I'll set up at least a small MUN outpost first, nothing big, and then I'll start to go on to MIMIS eventually. But everything gets deployed, those radiators are deployed, the solar panels are deployed, those antennas are deployed, they're not clipping into anything, which is excellent. And then we go ahead and dock the tug back to where it should be, its location, which is pretty nice. But we do, I think I try and, as I said, I always have this problem for some reason where, for some reason, it won't let me refuel certain tanks, transfer fuel from certain tanks, even though they're on the same craft. That's more specifically with, like, liquid fuel and oxidizer. But, other than that, oh yeah, we have to go back and get this tug. Now, this only has about 500 meters of Delta V left, which isn't a lot. But it is enough to actually get a rendezvous with the station, dock it, and there is a little bit of fuel in there, and I don't want to let the fuel go to waste. But it's all fine and good. And now I got a rendezvous on one orbit, which is pretty nice. And getting close to the station, then I go in and obviously I dock to it. And this gives somewhat of an idea of what the station's eventually going to look like. I'm eventually going to have like larger nuclear tugs and then smaller tugs docked to this. We get that docked. That's all fine and good. I transfer in all of the fuel, and then I uncouple, and this thing goes ahead and it deorbits. So yeah, Columbia Station is complete. As I said, the only thing that's really left to do is to send up the nuclear tug and refuel the rest of it. But other than that, the actual assembly flights are indeed over, which is pretty good. So thank you all for watching. Please, if you're on YouTube and BitChute, please like, subscribe, comment. I stream on YouTube and Twitch fairly often. Join the Discord server for more epicness. And my name is Shortline614. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.